the unmute my speakers. Okay, got it. And let me see, I'm going to live on Facebook. Let's see. So I posted an SAT problem, practice problem. I'm going to post it in at the Algebra Accelerator. It's my first time broadcasting from one platform to another platform. So we're going to see how this works. So this is using Zoom to broadcast live on Facebook. It's not something that I use in my online coaching per se, but I wanted to, okay. Okay, I'll try it. Okay, so got it. Oh, I see there's a little bit of a time delay. Interesting. Okay, so I'm getting ready to go live now. It's pretty cool. Okay. Oh, how are you doing? Love, that's my son. He's tuning in. Yes. Okay. So join in with feel free to join in with any questions. Usually I post a live at the end of the day, and I thought, let me come in midday and check in with families. Check in. Are there some math questions that you may have said, we'll just have to pass on that, or that's something that your student or child can do independently, is access this live. You can put it on for them and they can show me or ask their question, take a photograph of it, post it, and I'll address it in the video. So a win-win situation for both parent and child. Join in with questions or actual math work. So I have some topics I'm going to put out here. I'm just going to do not too long today, but so I'm going to post in different areas. Okay. And share to page groups. This is pretty cool. This is something I've never done before. Hi, assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? So it's open to everyone. So I really want to work with people across the country. That would be awesome. Because I think of math as a universal language, that seems like the best way to connect, right? That's good. That's good. I'm here just testing out some things using, so I've used my incubation time to really look at what is things that I need to work on. So technology, there's always like a little bit more I can do with what I already know. And so doing these tutorials, and some things I have to experience by actually doing it. So here it is. I didn't want to do a Facebook Live till I was doing a Facebook Live. So Here I am. So I am able to live stream this broadcast. So let's see if I can get back to my actual Zoom settings. Um, okay. So IG. All right. So it's going live here. Yes. All right. So I am on at the Algebra Accelerator on Facebook. You can catch me in different positions, but through my computer is where I'm logging in. The Zoom is it's pretty okay. Like I've used it in a different space, so I've been using. Okay, so that didn't work. So I've used the live in a different space. So I was just using it for one-on-one or maybe 2 or 3 other students engaging, but now using it in terms of webinars, pre-recorded information. And there's so many little trinkets that you can do with large scales. That's really cool. Experiment with the breakout rooms. The biggest thing that for me, now I don't know what you do your Zoom on, but I purchased, I think I can pick it up. Let me see. Um, so I purchased this little tablet device. So most people don't have any issues with Zoom. They don't have any issues with it. Um, as English teachers, as writing, Spanish language, there's just so much. But when it comes to math, it's like, so for me, this helps because it comes with a little bit of a pen and it's a Bluetooth. This is just for charging, but a Bluetooth thing. So it helps me write neater and things like that. It's just not hooked up for this computer that I'm going live on. I need another adapter of some sort. So, but those are things that help. Sharing is a big part of me because I always want to see everyone's work. So I do, but it doesn't feel good. Now, if you already have a touch screen device that you're doing your Zoom off, you can use your stylus, and it's much more finger friendly. But even if it's not finger friendly or it becomes finger friendly for me, it's not ideally the same situation for the students that are actually looking on. So when I ask them to show me, work it out, I have to be very patient and as they put that little shaky X and trying to get the markers to work. So there is a little bit of a way of trying to empower your students to get the right tools or find ways. I've had students take snapshot of their work. One thing I do require students to do after every lesson is that they have to send me to my Google Classroom, that they must send me a snapshot of their class notes. So for me, I need to see, one, that they were paying attention. Two, it helps me understand what they thought was important in putting the information on in their class notes. And it keeps them like, okay, I got to take a snapshot and upload it. And I see how they organize. It like gives me clues. So that's something I do as a math teacher. That's something I constantly ask students. I want to see your classwork. That's part of your classwork grade or assessment, just to know that you're taking notes. Not that I can easily send them a recording of this. I can easily send a PowerPoint, but I want to see what they note on their assignment. So that's something I do as a check-in. And let me see. I'm gonna go live again. My live went off on here. Okay, share to on my page. All right. I'm just going to do regular live this time, and I'm going to play with the other. So you might see some short lives on Facebook that just don't mean anything. It's just me testing things out. So Zoom, you can broadcast your Zoom across different platforms, and that's what I'm experimenting with today. which is different. Okay. Okay. Interactive. Got it. All right. Let me put a question. How is math? Yes, so basic, not sharing across other platforms, but it may not be necessary to do. Pro is good for, I just recently upgraded because, I mean, it's really for, you upgrade based upon audience more so than um, other stuff. But even if you get a basic, you can get like an add-on to add an extra like host or user. But if you are the main host of your Zoom and then someone else has their own Zoom, and maybe think about the platform being just Google Classroom, and you're using this to broadcast, but you post everything in your Google Classroom. I think that's fine. You could do webinars on um, on Zoom on the free version. What I do notice is that um, it depends on your class size. If you have more than 3 people, things like that, you have to keep your class size to time period to 40 minutes, and that may not be a bad thing, especially with math. Yeah, yep. Same here. When it comes to Google Classroom, it's like, so what do you want to engage with in terms of, so the question, just kind of like pro or free with Zoom, I think it's about your audience, like how many students are in your class. And then second, if you are intending other people to host your class. Um, Oh yeah, yeah. And I've been people are trying it all over. So for non-academic stuff like a business meeting or something, it's like all of a sudden the meeting just shut off. It was like, oh, okay. But you can restart another meeting. I mean, it's just about how if you really think this is going to be a long-term thing, um, and you can use it for other ways. Students can, you can think about up, yeah, yeah. So that's it kind of, yeah, it's like in between because depending on the age and how independent they are in that, it's really just for them to listen up. Oh, that happens too. It doesn't change. And I think Zoom is just very overloaded now, but it doesn't change if you have pro or not. Like now I'm looking at different aspects of it. Um, there's certain things like on my computer, I can have like access to a nice green screen background or virtual background, but my computer just doesn't allow for that. So um, that's the thing. Yes. Yes. Wow, that is so cool. How are the young kids enjoying the computer time? Is it something that they do they take breaks? Do they need to stay in is there someone in their immediate space that helps keep them focused? Oh, okay. Awesome. I think it could be fun and they get to see their friends and things on the screen. So wow, that is so cool. That is so cool. Let me see. Algebra. That's good. I think because when you were saying younger students, I think when it comes to younger students, it is most valuable to do things in a shorter span of time. That whole hour thing, it just forces us to stay in that span of time with no flexibility, but that 40 is more than enough. And it gets them feeling like they know it's going to end soon. It doesn't feel, you know, especially if you have like a routine where you're like, okay, exactly, exactly. Um, I'm trying to see, am I live on? So the thing about it is when it comes to, yes, when I hear people's reviews on this thing and the other, when it comes to the actual different platforms, everyone always comes back to Zoom. Like they're like, I'll try this, I'll try that, and then they come back to Zoom. Um, let me see, Zoom. Are you going to is let me tag Zoom. But that I find people, I know people that were like avid YouTubers that were broadcasting just through YouTube, but they were finding so many, it was getting a little messy, and then they ended up using Zoom to broadcast through Facebook. And I think there's probably a way to do it on IG too. You just have to do it manually. Awesome, awesome. So I am going to, I think I'm broadcasting. Let me just do this. I'm going to do it on my own page. No, I don't have that. I'm um I'm enjoying this. My son was helping me out a little while ago, so he's gone. um I'll post on my timeline. It's loading. Let's see. Since this is my first time doing it, what they're doing is, okay, so they're getting the video stream. Um, they're sending me to settings to get the settings in order. So I probably should have done that much earlier. What are some of your math questions? Let's see. I hope this works. Oh, okay. Cool. Um, let's see. Hmm. So I'm on Facebook, but I'm also on, let's see. Okay. Ooh, a lot of different. Ah, okay. Hello? So I guess this is my live. Okay. All right. Let me do this. Cool. So there's a time delay, which I can't look at the screen too well because I want to, okay. I'm gonna start a watch party. Um, okay. Math exploration. Okay. Okay. Let's get started. Let's see. Got it. All right, so I'm just going to do some check-ins with math, and this feels very awkward, just so that you know. Um, I'm going to shut off. I'm not going to look at my Facebook. That way, d- the time delay is just throwing me off. Welcome. I'm glad anyone that wants to tune in is come in, go out, come back in. Feel free. I'll be here just for a little while. I spent some time just setting it up, but for the most part, I want to engage both parents and um, students or children alike in the idea that we are um, really dealing with mathematical thinking and how we can use that in very interesting and intentional ways. So while I mostly deal with upper level students, and what I mean by that is middle to high school students, the very frameworks in which I'm building those concepts and those upper levels are the same that I would use in an elementary level classroom. And what I'm thinking about separating and kind of creating a different space for each topic and grade level. One of the things that I think is important in addressing any type of math problem is always to think of what skill is being presented, right? So for today, I have decided to share, I want to share my desktop with you. Let me see. Okay, I'm sharing my desktop, but I'm going to share a different part of my desktop. All right, so here we are. So in my photos, I have taken a snapshot of what I posted earlier today, which is a sample practice SAT problem. And I think they're very relevant to what we're doing. If you are in 10th grade or higher, this is something that is a real skill for you. And in terms of this part of the year, it's probably something that you either recently worked on or are about to work on or were about to work on in your classes. So in approaching this, first thing that comes to mind is one, this picture was already drawn for me, which is so, you know, thank you. So hospitable of them to draw the picture for me. But please don't expect that to be the case all the time. I'm gonna blow out my scent. Has some like nice aromas here. All right. Ooh, spilled a little bit. It's beeswax. Nice. All right. So what I want to present to you is what's the first thing that I want to look at or that you may want to look at. And if you've done anything with this, feel free to chime in and let me know if this is something that, and let me see if I can pull the live out and shrink that. All right. Okay. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. All right. This is just in case there's someone that comments. I can take a look at the comments. So usually I would have my son help me with responding to the comments. But if there are anything that you want to chime in on, feel free to do that. So let's take a look at what we're actually doing. Oops. All right, here we are. So when we're thinking about this shape, the thing that comes to mind more than anything is what kind of shape is in front of me. I'm not even going to read the problem yet. Now, mind you, we're looking at two things. We're looking at SAT. We're looking at the idea of SAT, which is this test taking skills, and then we're looking at raw skills. In order to become more fluent in test taking skills, it helps to do a little bit of review of raw skills. And usually you get that review. That's why when you get SAT books or prep books, a good chunk of the pages are explanation. And if the explanations are confusing, take the time to read them. But if they are actually confusing, then that's a hint to actually think about, take a little notepad on the side and write about, this skill around regular polygons, and just take a note, because otherwise it seems almost unable to be tackled. It's just too many things you're going through and having to go on. So let's get into this. So when I'm thinking about, I'm going to put just the annotation here. So in terms of, let me put this at the top here. I'm going to make my writing a little bolder. All right, so first thing here, there's a figure, A, B, C, D, E, F. Excellent. If it's not drawn for you, definitely draw it. If it is drawn for you, you should feel like it is your duty and your right to fix it up a little bit, because not everything is presented in the drawing. Some of it is left for you to fill in. All right, so it's a regular hexagon. That's my first clue that I should think about. Why didn't they just say it's a hexagon? The fact that it's a regular tells me that there's some other things happening here that I need to jog my mind to think about. One of the things that comes to mind, and just in general, is the idea that when it comes to test taking in general, or just doing some type of task that requires you to recall, I always tell my students, it's like going into a library and say you needed a book about zebras, right? Do you just walk the halls until you find a book about zebras? So the next thing is to narrow in on so in order to narrow in, you're looking for clues that help you get to the exact area. And I think of the library like our brain, right? Over the last, say, I don't know how old you all may be, but whether it's 10, 20, 30 years, you've acquired a significant amount of information in your brain. So do yourself a favor to build in a strategy to find out how you can locate those things. And that is something that we do, but we don't realize what are the triggers that allow us to. Sometimes a smell can trigger a memory, right? Something, if we think about how our mind is working, there's things that help trigger the exact location of what we need to access. And so when I think about regular hexagons, first of all, I'm going to go in the hexagon section. It's like going to the library. When I'm thinking I need a book about zebras, do you want picture books about zebras? Do you want to find out about a novel where zebra is mentioned? Do you want scientific information about how zebras live? Where do they, do you need a nonfiction textbook-like information? That's going to bring you to a certain area in the library, right? We need to bring ourselves to a certain area in our prior knowledge. So thinking about regular hexagons, I do know that regular has the definition of that all sides of this closed shape must be congruent or equal and have the same measure, and all angles of this regular hexagon must have the same measure. So that's already a clue for me. And so I'm going to, this is me soaking in the sunshine, giving myself, not waiting and just, oh yeah, it's there somewhere. No, as soon as I recognize something, I'm going to note it on my figure, because we read pictures faster than we read words. So once we understand something, let's add it to our picture. So the next thing, this is the figure of a regular hexagon. I've noted what makes this regular. I can even, the fact that this angle is going to equal, all the angles should be equal, right? I'll put, all right. That's just what they told me in words. All right. Now they give a second line of information. Line FC, or line segment FC, bisects an angle. All right. So now I'm going into my library, and I'm thinking, what does bisect tell me? And so bisect, by definition, is that it divides something into equal parts. The bi tells us 2 equal parts. So if it bisects this angle, and this is F and C right here, and I'm going to use my little highlighter. All right, so this is line FC, and it bisects this angle over here. Awesome. It bisects this angle. That tells me now this angle has equal parts. And so when I'm thinking about my drawing, I'm really highlighting that this side, angle AFG and angle EFG, are congruent just by that definition. So I haven't even gone to answer the question. I don't even know what they're asking yet. And I'm not really that concerned, because the more I understand about the situation, I'm already in the section of the library where I can get access to what I need, right? After all of that. Oh, and there's another thing that I saw here that really wasn't mentioned, but was drawn. And that's this right angle box here, okay? So there's some rules that come with intersecting lines and right angles. We think if this is a right angle, then the postulate states that an adjacent angle, the adjacent angle here, would also be 90 degrees, because the straight line has to have a total of 180 degrees. And so if it's almost like this box here, to make 360 degrees, we have 4 90-degree angles. So that's something that helps me add to the situation. They told me one part was 90, but by default, all of those angles connect to make a total of 360, but each one is 90 degrees. All right, so here we are. Let's get back to actually what the problem was saying, asking if the length of ED is 12. All right, so here's ED. And this actually compliments me, I know something about regular hexagons. So now I know that if this side is 12 and I say all sides are congruent, then all sides are also 12. So awesome. I've just enjoyed this right here. Now they're not going to tell you, right? Make sure that you know all 12. You have to be aware of what it infers, right? To give you something that, oh, if that's true, then this has to be true. Deductive reasoning. All right, so if the length of ED is 12, what is the length of FG? So we're getting right down to the thick of it. We actually have a question to answer. Now we have a question. They want to know what the length of this blue section here is. And we can find that. What I think in geometry, you will do yourself a favor in test preparation, or just in general geometry rules, is to really master your rules of triangles, because most closed shapes come back to the where you're proving things using the rules of triangles, whether they're quadrilaterals, hexagons, they kind of come back to this idea of triangle. I might say the exception is a circle in some instances, but even as you study circles in geometry, we draw lines, tangent lines, secant lines, and things through circles that form triangles. So it's like, you don't really get away from this triangle thing. And so anytime you can see that there's a triangle in this shape, see how finding out more information about the triangle will help you find out more information about the shape. Now, the part that we're looking for is not even part of the actual hexagon. So it's a segment of it. So if I were to pull that shape out, I would draw it as such. I would draw it, I think I have a better tool for that. Yes. So I would draw FG and then GE. Yeah. And then FE, right? There we are. And here we have our right angle. So this came directly from that space. I took it straight from here. Okay. Now that's another thing. Take it out. If you can cut it out and make it work for you visually, you're doing yourself 1,000 favors in one stroke. All right. So here we are. One thing that we do, so there's some other rules that are here. The fact that it's regular, we talked about just all sides being equal, but when we're talking about length, like we're looking for this length, we do know something about this length. Say, if I just needed length, I'll go to for right triangles is usually the Pythagorean theorem. So why not use it? We do not have enough information to use it. Unless we know this side also, we need to know at least two sides. And remember, this is a SAT test. We're not really here too long. We don't want to be here too long. So we want to see what we have right away. Now, there's a few different ways to do it. A student of mine posted, not sure if it's on the main page, but if it's on a Facebook page, a solution to it. And she used what she knew about interior angles. That's a possibility. I would even say you can try trigonometric functions, whatever floats your boat, right? So we can do different ways of finding it. I'm going to look at the interior angles because I want to stay really basic. And this is a calculator section, so you can get a calculator, get it going. One of the rules is if we know all angles are real and truly the same, we still need to know how much it's worth, because knowing how much this angle here is worth will help us understand what this angle is. Because when we know something about that angle, we may be able to get information about that side next to that angle. So let's do that. I have a hint in my head that we need more information about this shape overall as much as possible. So in this, when it comes to a shape, to find the sum of the interior angles, let me type that. All right, sum I think you can see it here. Sum of interior angles. The biggest piece is that how many triangles can fit in one of these shapes. And so based upon the triangles, we know a triangle has, and some of their interior angles is 180 degrees. And so the rule says look at the number of sides, subtract 2, and you will have your answer. So if two triangles, so a square is made up of two triangles. So if I take 180 degrees for each triangle, then that tells me that that whole square has a value of 180 degrees times 2, or 360 degrees. And so if that's the case, then when it comes to making the case here, a square is a 4-sided polygon that has 2 triangles. So there's a pattern. It's like the sides -2 tell you how many triangles are in it. So if this is a 6-sided angle, triangle, six-sided hexagon or polygon, then we know that if we take 6 and we take away, get it over here, 180, and we'll have, since there's 6 sides, 6 minus 2, and so then we have 180 times 4, and that is, ding, ding, ding. Let me see. 1 second. Oh, alhamdulillah, thank you. 180 times 4, then that is 720, I believe. 720 degrees. You know, I do this stuff before we come on here because I'm already thinking about a gazillion things, but I believe that's the actual number. I just want to, yes, so 720, and then we take 720 and we divide it by, so that's how much all of these are worth together. That's the sum of the interior angles. So if we just want to know what one of those are, we divide that sum, since they're all equal, into 6 parts. So when we divide that into 6 parts, we find out that each one is 120 degrees. So this is 120. This whole thing is 120. And so if we go around, then that means this whole thing is 120 degrees. All right. And so if this whole thing is 120 degrees, then what we're looking at in an initial is that this angle right here is half of this whole angle. And so half of 120 will give us 60. All right. So when we think of 60, we're thinking, okay, like, what's that going to tell us? But this is about building prior knowledge. This is about routine. Here's another short thing that I tell my students when we're working in class, and I find like students, they get enough information for one step, but it doesn't propel them to know what's happening in the next step. So as soon as I saw a 60-degree angle inside of a right triangle, I already know that this is a special, something called a special triangle, 30, 60, 90. And that's like a whole unit in geometry is just called special triangles. And that whole unit is called 30, 60, 90 triangles. And there's a whole set of rules just for 30, 60. So that is just one in and of itself. So when we know that it's a special triangle, we have special rules. But one thing I always tell students is sometimes we get in the habit of just getting one part of the step and be like, okay, I got it. That's the angle. And you kind of sit back and you're not sure, well, what do I do next? How's that going? You always have to remind yourself of the goal. The goal is to find the length. And so the whole unit on 30, 60, 90 triangles is about finding side lengths, right? And I'll go to the side over here and just give a brief overview. And it's very brief. So yeah, don't worry, I won't hold you too long. But let me just keep track of my time. So honestly, it comes from what we call a regular triangle. This idea of that all sides are equal. If we think about a triangle, and if all sides are equal, then there's another rule that says all angles have to be equal too. And so in that case, that means that if a triangle can only have, what do you call it, 180 degrees total, that means if they're all equal, then they all have to be divided equally. So that gives us 60, 60, 60. And in our understanding of this 30, 60, 90 triangle, that it comes from this base, that if I were to draw a line that divides this exactly in half, bisects this, that kind of bisects the top angle here. What happens is this 60 becomes 30 on one side and 30 on the other. 30 here, 30 here. And so what we've created is a 30, 60, 90. Now, on a very basic level, we can say, what if this side equals 1 unit? Before I was dividing it, and this side equals 1, what would the measure of this side? It would, the entire side would be 1, right? Now, if I'm only looking at half of the triangle, yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So if you just have half of this triangle, this whole side still has a value of 1. This whole side is exactly half. And so if this is 1, then this is, oh, let me undo that. Use a regular marker here. If this side is 1, it's almost like this side here is always twice this short side. It's been cut in half. And it's not even that you have to know any information. It's just that this whole blue line, blue bottom part of this triangle was 1. Now it's cut in half, then this side is half. So if I change this and say each side has a value of 2, then this side is actually half of 2. If this side had a value of 4, then this side will be half of 4. And so if I'm saying, and the only thing you have to concern yourself about, I'm bringing it back to our hexagon problem, is that you want to make sure that you are thinking of the proximity of the angles. This 30-degree angle is always across from the short side, from the shortest side. So we're looking for information about what's across from this 30. That's the shortest side. That's like a little teepee kind of shape. The thing that's right across is the shortest side. And so if what is across from this right triangle, right angle, it becomes the longest side. And so 12 is right across from it. So if this side is 12, so if I take this, I'm gonna erase all this extra junk here. All right, let's see if I can erase some of that. All right. So if I want to look at this triangle and say that this side has a side length of 12, I'm saying this side, this half of a side, would have a side of 6. And that corresponds with this 6 here. So in this, it would be 6 units. This 6 would be 6 units here. So that's how we found the length. Now, what I want to identify here is not simply that in a test situation, you wouldn't take this much time. What I'm doing is spreading it out, thinking about the skill behind it. And the thing that only comes with SAT and with test prep is not just skill alone. You can be very skillful and still not achieve the point that you want. It is a time situation. So under a time restraint, you are trying to master the routine. And this is what I hadn't mentioned earlier. Something that I always say to my students is I think of math routines like boxing. I'm not a boxer, but I know a little something from watching other people box. Say Muhammad Ali. All right. So a lot of people approach math routines as if they're not a routine, right? So if you do boxing, and I tell people when they get into the ring, that's like your test, right? You can train on the side, right? You can do the individual individual things that strengthen certain parts, jump roping, everything. But once you get in the ring, you're not bringing a jump rope, you're not punching on the bag. This is the real thing. And so inside of this real thing is the idea that when you are punching your opponent, Okay, just focus on the technique. The idea is if you had to sit and think inside of the ring and you finally got one punch off, got a right-handed punch, um, and then you waited. Okay, what should I do next? I'm gonna say, like, without a doubt, you might get knocked out. You might be knocked out by that. By the time the thought even comes to your mind. Most fighters who are good at what they do that thinking in their training, right? But once they get into the ring, what they're doing is they've studied a routine, and the routine might be 1, 2, 3, right? I'm going to do the 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do a right, left. Then there's a little break, right? That's the kind of routine that needs to be practiced. That when a shape is presented, when a right triangle is there, what do I do next, right? If we can master the routine, then less of the time is spent on, okay, so that might have to do with the rule that goes, you're already thinking what's coming next. They can come at me with this kind of angle. They can come at me about Pythagorean theorem. They can come at me. So you already have like a reflex kind of practice. And it's not that it doesn't involve thinking. It's just that you've done your thinking through in a separate space, right? And so that's why prep time is so important. So you want to come to your math problem like this, and you'd be like, okay, wow, there's a shape. It's a regular shape. Oh, bam, regular shape. I know. Let me draw that information in. All right. It bisects this. Bam. Oh, there's a right triangle in here. Let me isolate. Like those, believe it or not, are not some things that I guess on. They're things that I practice so that I can already have an understanding of the routine. I could have said, oh, what about Pythagorean theorem? What about trigonometric? I could think about all those things and they will still lead me to the same place. But what may not be true is that the time doesn't allow for me to be like the winner in that space. That makes sense. That you may have exhausted so much time, and that time messes with your confidence. So get stronger with the routine. So in this is what I want to post for this. I'm right at that mark. So some things I want to post with regard to this is skills, because I'm a skill. I'm all about the skills, right? If someone was playing basketball and in the middle of the game they kept missing their shot, you think they're gonna have to they'll be like, let me wait till I get to the next game and I'll be ready. Now I know what I did. No, you spend that time between that game and the next game working on that skill that you've isolated. Oh, I need to practice my 3-point shots. I need to practice my rebound. Like you would isolate the skill. And so in this, some skills that I see right away is special triangle rules, right? And this is something I encourage you to do, because what you'll find is the skills will repeat. If you do not write them down, they seem overwhelming. So when you go through a problem and you may have made errors or made a mistake or didn't know how to approach it, find out what the skills are, get a nice little Post-it pad and, write the date on it. And this is practice test 1, math section. This is the skill that I needs review this skill. And you'll be surprised. I might go to 4 different problems and they'll still have to do with the 30, 60, 90 triangle, right? And so without thinking that, I think confidence wise, it can make a student feel like they just don't know, right? They don't know. No, but if you approach their 30, 60, 90 triangle skill, work on that, you will have more of a smooth transition for 4 more problems, right? So you have to recognize what was repeating. So the next skill I might add for this one, I say is, also in terms of understanding rules of right triangles. Okay, let me capitalize that. Those are big things. I think looser things, ideas, or just understanding the definition of regular polygons. Definition. That I think that's sufficient. I think this routine can be 1, 2, 3. If you think of it 1, 2, 3, you practice that 1, 2, 3 routine. Just do it. It's not so much that you're going to see the exact problem. You're going to see those skills. You're going to see those skills. All right. So that's it for this SAT problem. I'm going to post another problem tomorrow or probably late this evening, but definitely by tomorrow morning. And if you want to try it on your own, do so. You do not have to post. If you want to post, post. If you feel shy, just tune into our check-in and see if your strategy, or maybe I can bring you on to the live and you can share your strategy. That would be great. So I'm just going to erase this using my little eraser here. I think there's a way I can select it and then delete. Select. So I have to actually head out soon. Yeah, I'm staying home. I am, but I have to take care of some of my family that shouldn't be out at all, you know? So that's important. Check in with people that need. So I hope everyone is doing well. One of the skills that I think is really important is to think about, you know, post some questions and problems that might come from your work at home. Okay. Yes, I will. Okay, I'm sorry. People are sending have sent me DMs and I feel like thank you. Thank you. Um I yeah, so this is a new space in terms of the live interaction. I do need to have a separate device, perhaps that helps, you know, just FYI, any teachers that might be watching, like another device that helps me not have to use, or if I have a double screen would be even better, that helps me see the comments and not interfere with my space. I need elbow room for my class. But I did want to some areas that I'm trying to gauge, because like I said, every teacher has their own timeline for things. And although we are following pretty much a similar calendar, I am not sure where everyone is in terms of you know, some classes need a little extra help in this area, so they're moved on to another part of the curriculum, or they want to spend more time here, less time there. And so it all adds up in the end, I believe, in terms of the benefit of the student. But in terms of topics, I try to gauge what are some end of the year topics that come on. I know exponential relationships in algebra is a key part. One of the things, okay, so my live video ended. I must have went over, because I have been recording since before. Since before, okay, my video is saved, share. So I'm off of IG. So here I am. So what I wanted to say is some of the things that come from actually understanding which topic you want to focus on in terms of what's most beneficial to your children. might need to check in and say, can you do a section on this topic? And I will. I can pre-record it, I can do it live, and all of that. And that is actually fun for me. So I love working with mathematical ideas. So one of the topics that I think some people might be on is exponential growth. I know when I used to teach algebra, I'd flip flop. Sometimes I do quadratic relationships first because I'd go into factoring, and then I use from factoring go straight into quadratic and do exponential relationships last. But I've also, you know, as of, I kind of go in multiple different classrooms now, and I see how teachers may focus on this. And sometimes it's test driven, where because they know the district test is coming, they need to get certain skills out. So exponential growth, actually, relationships in the district in this part of town is usually what's given first. Uh, but anyway, anywho, I thought I would definitely put that up there as a possibility for additional support. I can also do elementary grade level support. When I think about elementary grade level, I'm always concerned about making more information available for active learning, right? Because it has to kind of almost get into your bones. This is language. So unless you're speaking it, how do you really say you're mastering that language? All right. So exponential growth and decay are best taught through word problem scenarios. That's my that's my thing. All right. So next session, I might do a session later today on exponential growth and decay. If anyone has any questions about those topics or other topics, leave them in the comments, DM me, and I'll get to it. And I love to share my experiences because I'm pretty open about those kind of things. When I learn something, I always like to share my experience with it. It can go either way. All right. Have a blessed day, and I hope it's of benefit. I'm going to post another announcement too, because I've heard some students say, oh, they canceled the SAT. They did not cancel the SAT. They postponed it. So the SAT, as far as the College Board I've been checking back on their site, and they're saying that they still haven't they still are keeping the May 2nd date, and it has not been changed yet. I mean, tomorrow I can go on and it says something else, but think of it as a postponement versus and they're taking into consideration all of what's happening, even for those who wanted to do a retake, um, including PSATs and different other assessments that were due to come out and be taken within these few weeks. So definitely don't push it off the table if that's something that you were going to do anyway. Just stay prepared. All right. If you're ready, you don't have to get ready. Have a great rest of your day. Peace. Now I have to end this, right? Okay. End meeting.